Welcome to the Pharos Fit podcast, where we help you to explore your capacity to move better, push further, and achieve your limitless potential through fitness, nutrition, recovery, and lifestyle. Hey guys, welcome back to the Pharos Fit podcast. So good to be back with you again. I'm here with my producer, Brandon, today. Hey Brandon, how you doing?
Doing great. I'm back to be back in the hot seats. Excited.
Back in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Love it. Today's podcast, guys, I sent out a questionnaire to my challenges yesterday, everyone on the Limitless Challenge, and they sent back some questions, and overwhelmingly the questions were kind of about supplementation and aging and what I would recommend in terms of supplements for people who are over a certain age. Some of them, the majority is more to do with health than to do with performance per se. But there are there's obviously some crossover there, and there's kind of three main supplements that I want to focus on. The three main supplements that I think, have the most health benefit, give the most bang for the buck, and are kind of the most neglected / you see across the board people are deficient in these vitamins and minerals, and in this supplement in particular. So the three things I really want to focus on today are magnesium, vitamin D, and zinc. And this is particularly relevant right now with everything that's happening with COVID, because we know from the data that immune function and people who have poor immune function, poor metabolic function, obesity, diabetes, etc., we know that these people are more vulnerable to viruses like COVID. And it really is our responsibility in the weeks and months ahead to give ourselves a better chance at defending ourselves. And I've talked about this a lot before, but the combination of eating well, training well, staying active, and potentially taking good supplementation, may be the difference between us coping with the virus and not coping with the virus. It really is that simple. Of course, there are outliers. So when I say things like this, people always say, but what about so-and-so? They're very healthy and they got sick. And it's like, well, yeah, that is true. There are outliers, but the overwhelming data and the majority of people that get very, very sick have some kind of metabolic dysfunction. Like I said, the correlation between obesity and people who do not fare well with the COVID virus is a huge problem. The data shows that you are far more likely to end up in the ICU if you are obese, or if you have any underlying conditions to do with obesity or diabetes, etc. So like I said, this stuff is very important, and I think there's always a temptation, and I don't know kind of why it's happened, but there is a temptation to rely on people telling you what to do, and telling you what drugs to take, and it's the responsibility of the hospitals and the government to make you feel better and all that kind of stuff. And quite simply, it's on you, it's on us as, on human beings to educate ourselves, eat well, stay healthy, supplement well, and, take our own health into our own hands. I like to think that at Pharos Athletic Club, we are that kind of community. We do, if you're in the building, you kind of already know this. It's something we emphasize a lot and we talk about a lot. And, the fact that you are here, already suggests that you are willing to take your health into your own hands. So this is kind of going out to the members in terms of maybe there are a few things we can all do better, but also if anybody's listening that, doesn't put a lot of effort into keeping themselves healthy and taking good care of themselves from a nutritional standpoint, from a fitness standpoint, etc., then, this is stuff you really should listen to. Does that make sense, Brendan?
Perfect sense.
Yeah.
No, like you said, the number one you want to go with, magnesium. I think it's 80% of people are deficient.
Yeah.
In America.
I think between 70 and 95%, the statistics show, are deficient in magnesium. And I think the issues with magnesium a lot of the time is, some people just aren't consuming any magnesium or enough magnesium to get the levels where they need to be. And a lot of people are taking the wrong kind of magnesium, which, also is an issue. So when people ask me about magnesium, and what it does, magnesium is an essential mineral. It helps with a bunch of different stuff. So it helps with protein synthesis. So if you come to the gym and you're trying to gain some lean muscle tissue, which we all should be trying to do, magnesium helps with protein synthesis. Okay. It also helps with cardiovascular health. So keeping a healthy heart, which of course we all want to do. It helps with immune function. We already talked about immune function. We want to stay protected against disease and virus, so it boosts immune function. It helps with muscle relaxation, particularly magnesium glycinate, which I want to talk about in a second. It helps with blood sugar management and insulin sensitivity, which of course we know, as we already said, we want to avoid, diabetes and that kind of stuff. So obviously huge benefits there. And the number one reason why a lot of people take magnesium and why I started taking magnesium in the first place is because it improves sleep quality. So when you're thinking about taking magnesium, if you are someone that doesn't sleep well, or you find you have twitchy muscles when you go to bed, or you find you have a very active brain when you go to bed, you can't switch off. You might find, you wake up multiple times in the night, or you simply have trouble relaxing in the evening. Of course, there may be other reasons why this happens, but a lot of the time, the reason is you are deficient in magnesium. So it's really time to pay attention to that magnesium intake and the quality of magnesium that you're taking. Now, when you look for a good magnesium, look for first of all, look for chelated magnesium. Now, chelated just means that it's pre-attached to an amino acid, usually glycine, which makes it more absorbable. So I'll say this multiple times about multiple things, but it's not what you eat, it's what your body can use that really counts. So it doesn't matter if you're taking stuff if your body can't absorb it. We talk about a lot of this kind of stuff with food. Especially with a lot of like man-made food and chemical foods and things that are created these days, a lot of the time our body just simply cannot absorb it. Doesn't know what to do with it. It's alien to the human body. So often it's either stored as fat, or it becomes toxic, or
the worst part
or
is
you just shit out.
It takes your water too, and it dehydrates you even more.
It dehydrates you.
And
Yeah.
You don't even you lose the hydration you were getting with your with your fluids.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it causes inflammation. All these different things. So we have to make sure that what we're putting into our body is stuff that our body can actually absorb and use effectively and efficiently. So if it's chelated, it means it's pre-attached to this amino acid, which is usually glycine, which makes it more absorbable. So look for that chelated zinc. I use one by a company called Solgar. They've been around since the 1950s, a super old company.
Is that one on the table right there?
Yeah, I got this one here. Yeah. This one's actually vitamin D3, but yeah, this is Solgar, the brand. There are a bunch of different ones out there. If you go to a good health food store, and look for chelated magnesium, you'll find one, under a solid brand. And the other thing I always look for is there are a few types of magnesium that cause problems. One is magnesium oxide. Now, you mentioned before, like a supplement you were taking, a magnesium supplement, Natural Calm. Now, don't quote me on this because I'm not 100% sure, but I think that is magnesium oxide. And you'll know it's magnesium oxide because usually it's also a laxative. So if you take too much of it, you'll literally shit the bed.
I think so. I originally got that one from Dom DeAugustino, and I was going heavy keto, and he was the one advocating.
Right.
And he was the one pushing for that. So it'd be interesting to know, because I think that was one of the things. Like MCT oil, don't take too much of it.
Right.
It will destroy your insides. I think this one as well does that. So
yeah. I remember, because I remember back in the day, when I first started taking that particular product, somebody told me, you should take magnesium. So I was like, I'll take some magnesium. So I had this magnesium supplement, and I took some of it and I slept well. I was like, great, maybe if I take even more of it, I'll sleep even better. And I kind of doubled down on it. And then, of course, things got uncomfortable. My stomach kind of exploded. So
I did the same thing with MC too. I'm gonna go really into keto, and I couldn't get out of bed for 6 hours. So
right, it gets ugly. It gets ugly. So
please don't.
Yeah, my favorite magnesium is magnesium glycinate. So if you look for a product that's A, chelated, and B, that contains magnesium glycinate, I find in terms of like relaxing my muscles, relaxing my mind, and getting a good night's sleep, magnesium glycinate is the one that kind of helps me the most. And in terms of like when you should take it, you can also take it, after a hard workout, because like I said, after a hard workout, sometimes you want to relax a bit, you want to activate that parasympathetic nervous system, you want to kind of chill. So then it can be good. And right before bed, I take it. The other one to watch out for is magnesium citrate. That's also a laxative. It can irritate the digestive tract, and very similar to magnesium oxide, it can leave you. It can cause some issues, which are unattractive if you're in a relationship, but also just uncomfortable if you are on your own. So, like I said, guys, most people are deficient in magnesium. You probably are if you're not supplementing in some fashion. So go out to the store or look online, find a good chelated magnesium and look for magnesium glycinate, and give it a try and see if it helps you relax and sleep and improve that kind of quality.
No, I thought it was really interesting about the amino acid, because I know, like you said, attaching it to something. So, because the biggest problem for people is absorbing it.
Sure.
And I know we have a massive issue with just even our fruits and vegetables having all the nutrients that they're supposed to have into it, because of our soil being so deficient these days and the nutrients and resources. So, I mean, if there isn't like a big call for you to take supplements, I mean, that is it. You're not, like you said, where besides avocados are you getting magnesium from?
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, I think people will always talk about, oh, I eat this because it's got this in it, without thinking, okay, but can your body truly absorb that? And often the answer is no. So, like I said, when you look at the ingredients of stuff, it's not just about what's in the product, just not just what that thing is. It's like the question is, can your body absorb it? And of course, you'll see a lot of arguments about this in the kind of vegan, vegetarian / versus people who eat meat argument, and they'll go back and forth about like what's in things and what's good for us and what's not good for us and what our body can actually absorb and not absorb. So, do your own research and find out what you think, what you believe to be true, and adjust accordingly. And it's important. Actually, I should have said this at the beginning, but I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, so anything that I say, use this information as you will. Feel free to do your own research, ask your doctor, all that kind of stuff. But this is stuff that I've found useful, information that I've found useful over the years, things that I have tried over the years that really helped me and have helped my clients, and I think you guys will benefit from. The next one I want to talk about is vitamin D. Now, vitamin D, it's had a lot of press recently, a lot of good press. Simply because of its effectiveness at improving people's chances against the coronavirus. I think the UK have been like handing out vitamin D to try and boost people's levels.
Really?
Yeah, I read that.
That's great.
I think that happened, or it was meant to happen. But there are a ton of reasons why A, you should be taking vitamin D. B, why people are deficient in vitamin D. And see, how much vitamin D you should be taking if you are low, and how do you kind of like get this tested? So let's kind of dive into this. I have a bunch of notes on this because there's a lot of information on vitamin D. So I want to be thorough with this one. So a few things here. If you are low in vitamin D, you will more likely, statistically speaking, you'll be more likely to be overweight, have less muscle mass, have a higher risk of a long list of varying diseases, and this deficiency is widespread, especially in countries where exposure to sunlight is low. We get vitamin D, obviously, from direct sunlight. So if we don't get a lot of direct sunlight, for example, at least, say 20 minutes a day of direct sunlight between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., then we are likely to be deficient in vitamin D. Now, people say to me all the time, well, you live in LA, like you live in California, you must get a ton of vitamin D. Well, the problem is a lot of us may live here, but how many of us can truly say that we stand in the sun for 20 minutes and get direct sunlight on our skin? And that means I'm basically naked. Like, I'm not like in jeans, a top, a hat, and sunglasses. You're not absorbing that vitamin D in that situation. You need direct sunlight on your skin for 20 minutes between the hours of 10 and 2 to truly absorb vitamin D. So I think a lot of people think, oh, well, I live in California, I must be fine. That is not necessarily the case. Most simply do not get that kind of exposure, and thus are deficient. Like sunscreen will obviously block the absorption of vitamin D, and the darker your skin color is, the more impeded that absorption of vitamin D will be. So that's also something to take note of. There was a survey in 2010, so 10 years ago now, and so the situation has not gotten better. It's probably gotten worse. But the study showed that 70% of fair-skinned people were deficient in vitamin D, and 95% of darker skinned people were deficient in vitamin D. So that's a huge number. For the reasons I just stated, the darker your skin is, the harder it is to absorb. So the deficiency goes up. And like I said, there's a ton of reasons why you should take vitamin D, and there's been a lot of studies into this. Lower levels of vitamin D have been associated with increased body fat percentage. We talk a lot about body fat percentage in the gym, and I think a lot of us sometimes think of it purely from an aesthetic perspective of, I want to be lean, I want to be able to see my abs, I want to see my muscles, all that kind of stuff. But at a certain point, it really is a health issue and not an aesthetic issue. Also increases directly in belly fat, so fat that covers our organs. It's also been associated with greater fat mass in all ages, all races, and both genders. So this isn't like specifically targeting anybody in particular. It affects everybody, in these multiple areas. It can lead to this fat storage, which of course decreases, as we've already talked about, which decreases metabolic health. It causes inflammation in the body. It also decreases pancreatic cell function and affects insulin sensitivity. We already mentioned insulin sensitivity and the problems that are associated with that and diabetes. So if we summarize that by saying deficiencies in vitamin D further your risk of gaining fat and of diabetes, then we already have a huge reason to make sure that our vitamin D levels are where they need to be. If we do get the required amount of vitamin D that we need, we can expect to see increases in muscle and strength. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want increases in strength, and who doesn't want increases in muscle? People may say that they don't want increases in muscle, but trust me, they do, because they want, as we spoke about this on a previous podcast, the goal is always to eat as many calories as possible without gaining fat and without losing muscle. Now, the more muscle you have, the more calories you can eat, the more nutrients you can get in your body. When you think about good quality food, you think about nutrients. How many nutrients going to get in my body? Well, the more lean mass you have, the more muscle mass you have, the greater nutrients your body can take in and absorb without gaining fat. So it's in our interest to increase lean muscle mass. And And we can then also associate those increases with of strength and muscle with a reduction in the risk of injury. Obviously, the more we can, the stronger we are, the more we can support our skeletal system, the more we can support our joints. The less we need to worry about injury, which is very important for a lot of us that train regularly. Training becomes a big part of our day, a big part of our life, a big part of our our need. Like we need to train for mental health, for physical health, etc. And injuries are always a setback. So if we want to avoid injury, if we want to avoid time out, then taking in the required amount of vitamin D and getting our levels up is of course in our interests. So again, a huge reason to take it. Of course, in general terms, it enhances the immune system. We talked about this in relationship to COVID. We want to be able to defend ourselves against viruses and bacteria and disease. And just the simple fact that vitamin D boosts our immune system is a huge reason to take it. I think, when we think about, I always like to go back to the concept of getting nutrients in the body that help defend against, all these kind of elements that we associate with modern society. And just the fact that the vitamin D, like I said, boosts the immune system, takes up our chances to defending against disease. It's kind of a no-brainer. Like as soon as you say it to people, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me.
Well, these systems need to work and they need to be activated. You need to provide them the nutrients, the tools, so they can do their job. And unless you do that with food, which is hard to do now these days, you need some extra supplements.
Right.
And you got to go to the doctor and get a blood test to know what you're missing. What
you're missing, exactly. And on the, I mentioned before about injuries and so forth. They did a bunch of studies in football players associated with vitamin D, and the studies proved that lower vitamin D levels were associated with increased injury. So it's not just a theory; it's been proven by studies. And also, we can. They've also done studies that associated vitamin D with increased muscular power due to the increase in the strength and size of type 2 muscle fibers. So if you are interested in performance and athletics and strength and power, that kind of stuff, then type 2 muscle fibers, that kind of fast twitch muscle fibers that makes us explosive, like when you think about jumping and throwing and explosive sprints, that kind of stuff.
I don't want to lose that stuff.
You don't want to lose that stuff, then keep that vitamin D up.
I want to get some more vitamin D.
Yeah. Another good reason to take it, lower levels of vitamin D have been associated with low testosterone and infertility. A lot of guys, especially my age, once you get over the age of kind of 40, we know that testosterone levels are going to start to drop. It becomes like a battle of like, how do I keep my T levels up? How do I keep them up as high as I can? A lot of people will kind of seek out TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, without first paying attention to the basics of, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, all these other things that can help boost the testosterone levels. So, before you reach for, the kind of like the hardcore drug kind of situation, check out your vitamin D levels, make sure you know where they're at, because it can help boost your testosterone levels.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that. You're messing with your hormonal system.
In a
synthetic way. Like, it's not terrible, but you have to make sure you're balancing that stuff out. Yeah. Tracking heavily.
Exactly.
Please be careful.
Exactly. And obviously, if we can keep those testosterone levels up, the more we are likely to experience a lean body mass, a reduction in body fat, and just better overall general health. Obviously hormones are very, very important. Testosterone is very, very important. So keeping those levels as optimal as possible is obviously key. And also in women, obviously vitamin D is very important for reproduction and hormonal balance and body composition. They also did a study into pregnant women who took 4,000 IUs of vitamin D a day for a month in the 12 to 16 week period of pregnancy, and they all come out with healthier babies with lower rates of preterm labor.
What's the preterm labor?
If you have a premature baby, that went down. So, obviously huge benefits here for women as well. It's not just guys and testosterone, it's female hormonal health. So for both men and women, vitamin D becomes, hugely important for all these reasons.
Especially the autism levels, like just percentages of people with that. I mean, making sure your hormonal systems, as well as your wife are pregnant, even you before you're going to be consummating this baby. I mean, right.
Yeah, we want to give our kids the best chance possible. So, anything we can do to optimize their chances, their childhood, their energy levels, their brain function, all that kind of stuff, we should be doing. So just to kind of summarize vitamin D, if we can optimize our vitamin D levels, we are going to improve body composition, get better results from training, and maintain better overall health. So 3 very good reasons there to be supplementing with vitamin D. Like I said, 75 to 95% of people are deficient in vitamin D. Especially if you are in a climate that has limited sunshine or limited daylight, or if you quite simply do not get out in the sun that much, chances are you are going to be deficient in vitamin D. So it's in your interests to seriously think about supplementing with vitamin D. I do it every day. I take 1,000 IUs every day, and I take D3. There are 2 types of vitamin D that you'll find, D3 and D2. D3 comes from animal sources. D2 is cheaper and it comes from plant sources, but it's less effective. So when you're looking online or you're shopping in the supermarket or in a health food store for vitamin D, you want to seek out vitamin D3. So the next big one is zinc, and zinc's another huge mineral that the body that is essential for the body, and this is another a supplement that kind of improves all aspects of human health. Again, I would recommend taking a chelated zinc for better absorption for the same reasons we talked about before with magnesium. Zinc is found in basically every single tissue in the body. It's a powerful antioxidant. It can help prevent cancer. And it can help maintain healthy hormone levels. So again, you see a lot of the kind of similar things coming around with these supplements, the combination of which, of course, increases the chances of all these positive things. Again, lower levels of zinc can cause infertility and low libido. Lower levels exacerbate the effects of stress in the body, and it can also accelerate aging. I think in California and LA, everyone's always looking for that anti-aging product, that anti-aging magic pill. And often, the answer is in the simple things, the foods that have been available to us, the vitamins and minerals that have been available to us for ages and ages and ages, since the dawn of time, but have become kind of neglected over the years due to, the lowering quality of soil, the lowering quality of food, and the nutrient value that's now in food is not what it once was. So we really need to paying attention to these things. Zinc is necessary for optimal physical performance, for energy and body composition. We talked about a few of these things before. It comes back around with zinc. It also affects protein synthesis, which we've already mentioned before, and the proper function of red and white blood cells. Zinc is found in a lot of meat and some seafood. It's also found very heavily in oysters. Oysters, everyone knows it's a big aphrodisiac, probably because of its such large zinc content, and also some dairy. A lot of people will say, you can also get zinc from plants. That is true, but the problem is with plants is zinc is bound to the phytates in the plants, which makes it inaccessible. So our body can't absorb it from plants. So if you are a vegetarian or you are vegan, absolutely no judgment here, but supplementing with zinc may be well worth your while, and you might find you are, deficient in it. Also, if you are on birth control or on any kind of hormone replacement, you are also at greater risk of deficiency. So again, well worth looking into supplementing with zinc. Have your zinc levels tested. Have a blood test, see if your zinc levels are low, and then supplement accordingly. Signs that you are deficient in magnesium would be an altered sense of taste. You kind of crave saltier and sweeter foods because you're just not really tasting food as much. So you kind of you add a lot of salt, or you crave that kind of junk type food because you can taste it more. You can also experience obviously low energy, chronic fatigue, poor immunity, poor memory, which is a huge one, inability to focus. You can also experience slow wound healing if you have a cut and it doesn't heal very quickly, and nerve dysfunction, and even I read ringing in the ears can also be an associated side effect of low zinc. So again, multiple reasons why you should be taking, or why you should make sure that your zinc levels are where they're at. And if you need to find it out, the only way to really know is to have a blood test and have your results analyzed. But chances are, I think most people are probably deficient to some degree in zinc. So again, to kind of summarize overall why you should be taking zinc, there are multiple reasons, but to improve, athletic performance. We talked about hormones, improving testosterone, improving growth hormone levels, improving IGF-1, the hormonal balance in both men and in women, reproductive health, fertility. Zinc will help with all of this. Again, as we mentioned before, helps prevent cancer, helps boost immune function, it improves cardiovascular health because it reduces inflammation. Particularly helpful, obviously, as we age, as we get older, and the risk of our heart health declining as we get older. So if you are, like I said, a lot of the questions for me were about over the age of 40, what should I be taking? Zinc is definitely going to be one of those, because we want healthy hearts as we get older. Inflammation is one of the big problems of our age, inflammation of all kinds. So again, jump on that zinc. Let's help reduce that inflammation. It helps us become more sensitive to insulin. So again, if we're more sensitive to insulin, if we increase our insulin sensitivity, we are more likely to avoid diabetes. So again, we know statistically that the problem with diabetes in this day and age is huge. So again, zinc is something that should be paid attention to. It's a strong antioxidant, which helps us target free radicals, obviously. It helps prevent Alzheimer's and increase brain health, overall brain health. It helps detoxify the brain of heavy metals, which can of course lead to Alzheimer's and other brain problems, and promotes that kind of overall general cellular homeostasis in the brain. I think cognition and brain function and the prevalence of neurotropics in modern culture is something that you've seen come around a lot, because people talk a lot these days about brain fog and not thinking clearly and not being able to really focus on things. Of course, in kids we see a lot of ADD situations, and just the fact that zinc helps maintain brain cognition and neurotransmitter function. Again, it's a huge reason to take it. We want to, obviously, with the abundance of information and everything around, in modern society, there are so many distractions, so many things around us. It's very easy to just for our brains to be all over the place. Mm-hmm. So the more we can kind of stay focused and think clearly and have clarity, I think the happier we are and the more productive we are. So again, zinc will help with that. So well worth taking it for those reasons. And of course, we mentioned sleep. We mentioned the sleep thing, and zinc is necessary for the metabolism of melatonin, which obviously is the key hormone in healthy sleep. So, if we do not have enough zinc in our system, we will not produce the melatonin that is required for healthy sleeping patterns. So again, get that magnesium glycinate. Make sure it's chelated, and you should improve your sleep quality. We talked a little bit about drive and focus already, but zinc helps regulate dopamine, which obviously helps with drive and focus. And another huge one for me, in modern society, we've seen a huge increase in depression and problems with mood swings, that kind of stuff. And the fact that zinc helps with this dopamine production and increases the density of serotonin receptors in the brain. All of this helps with that overall fighting depression, fighting bad moods, fighting slumps in energy, that kind of like don't feel like it today kind of attitude, and kind of checking out kind of attitude. I think the temptation always is to, as we mentioned before, is to jump on the kind of like the drug train and think about, well, what medication do I need to deal with this problem, when first of all, a lot of attention needs to be paid as, okay, what can we do naturally, what can we be what can we be eating that helps us makes us feel better? How can we be exercising that makes us feel better? What can we be supplementing with naturally that makes us feel better before we jump on what prescription do I need to kill this thing?
Absolutely. I think what I tell people, and just for myself, I tell myself, like, even dopamine, getting a natural dopamine hit, it's harder to do. You got to go work out. You got to push yourself and bust your ass in order to get those receptors, there's fire, and have those great feelings. If you do one just like, easy, well, it's just not good for you long term. But they're around us all the time, like you said. So even being fulfilled, we have to work real hard to have those good, solid feelings coming out, getting shot out of our head. So it's worth it.
So to kind of summarize where we are right now, we've talked about magnesium. Mm-hmm. We talked about magnesium glycinate. We talked about chelated magnesium that contains magnesium glycinate. That would be my number one go-to for magnesium. We talked about obviously vitamin D and taking vitamin D3 to get our vitamin D levels up to where they need to be. We talked about zinc, getting a good chelated zinc. I take 25 milligrams a day of zinc chelate. And then I also take a multivit. People ask me about multivit. Should I take a multivit? You'll find like a multitude of discussion about this, of like, if you eat a good diet, why do you need to take a multivit and all that kind of stuff? Yes, if you eat a good healthy diet that's broad in range and so forth, then you should, in theory, have a lot of what you need. But for me, I'd rather cover my bases, and if you find a good multivit that has a very, very broad spectrum of vitamins, minerals, even neurotropics, adaptogens, mushrooms, that kind of stuff, I find it to be, I feel better. I don't know whether there's a placebo effect in there. Maybe, I don't care. Like, it makes me feel good. I take a multivit that does have a broad range of vitamins and minerals, but it has a ton of herbs, has adaptogen mushrooms in there for my brain function and neurotropic ingredients. Helps with my my overall health and mental clarity, and I think it's well worth taking a multivit. Like I said, just to keep your bases covered, and to not be worried so much about did I get enough of this, did I get enough of that. But I will stress, you just because you're taking a multivit doesn't mean you shouldn't take additional zinc, vitamin D3, and magnesium, because the levels in the multivit will not be high enough to get those supplements up, to get those vitamins up, minerals up to where they need to be. So yes, take your multivit, but also take a Vit D3, take a chelated magnesium, take a chelated zinc. I find that works best for me. I think it will work best for you guys. My one comes from a company called HD Muscle. Again, Solgar has a great multivit, and any good health food store, when you go in, you look at the label on the back. Again, make sure the ingredients is broad and inclusive, and just make sure it's a quality supplement from a good source. And then a couple of other kind of things that people were asking me about, whey versus casein. Firstly, I think it's important to say that there is no greater source of protein than from real food. Quality meats, quality fish, quality dairy to some degree. You just can't beat the nutrient value of real food. At a certain point, I do find whey to be very useful in the day, simply because, particularly if you're on the go and you just simply do not have the time to seek out or cook a meat-based meal or a protein-based meal, then whey can be very useful. If you are heavier, I'm basically just over 200 pounds. I'm trying to get in, over 200 grams of protein a day. It's hard to get that from, meat and fish alone. So I do supplement with whey to get my levels up. It's not a magic supplement. It doesn't immediately make you, automatically more muscular or more healthy, but it can help get your protein levels up to where they need to be. The difference between whey and casein: whey in general you will take during the day. Casein in general you will take in the evening. And the reason to take casein is because it is a slow digesting protein that kind of sustains you through the night. So if you think about during the day, you're kind of getting consistent protein sources from your meals and from your whey. In the evening, obviously you're not going to wake up in the middle of the night, or most of you aren't, and eat food. Casein is something that will digest slowly and kind of sustain you as you sleep. So again, a good way to pump up or bump up that protein consumption and sustain you through the evening. So would I recommend whey and would I recommend casein? Yes, if your levels of protein intake are not where they need to be. It's a quick, convenient way to get them up. Again, when you're taking whey or when you're taking casein, always read the label. Look at what other shit is in there.
Absolutely. Sugar additives are heavy sometimes. Yeah.
So try and find as pure of a whey as you possibly can, as pure of a casein as you possibly can. Try and avoid long lists of ingredients that you don't. In general, if you don't know what they are, they're not good for you.
No.
And obviously, supplement companies often, pump this stuff full of other stuff to make it taste better, to get people like addicted to the taste, or just because it tastes great doesn't mean it's good. In fact, obviously, often it is the reverse. So look out for those hidden sugars, look out for those hidden chemicals, and in general, the more stuff that's in it when it comes to whey and casein, the less good it is. So watch out for that. 48 years old, should they be strength training? Should they be doing cardio? And then another question about the 70-year-old, should they be like, I don't care how old you are, right through your lifetime, whether you're 16 or whether you're 57, everybody should be strength training, and everybody should be working on their cardiovascular health. It's not something we stop doing. As much as we can, we should be, staying active and focusing on maintaining lean muscle tissue, maintaining the strength of our bones, maintaining healthy joints. That's not to say you're not going to be lifting the same amount of weight or whatever when you're 80 as you were when you were 30, but we should be trying to maintain strength for as long as we possibly can. The sooner we stop, the worse we're going to get. So for me, a 48-year-old should absolutely be strength training and should absolutely be doing some form of cardiovascular activity, simply because you want to maintain a healthy heart, you want to keep those mitochondria active, you want to keep your muscles engaged, you want to keep your motor units firing, you want to keep your ligaments and tendons both active and supple and strong. And the benefits of strength training have been shown time and time again to improve longevity, decrease injury, decrease the structure of our bodies kind of falling apart, a loss of function, a loss of range of motion, a loss of movement ability. All that stuff. Like, we always talk about trying to maintain a healthy metabolism for as long as possible. As I mentioned before, the more lean muscle tissue you have on your body, the better your metabolism is likely to be. How do you maintain a good metabolism? Keep that muscle tissue. Mm-hmm. If you stop strength training, you're going to lose some muscle tissue. So keep strength training throughout your lifetime. And, like I said, keep your cardiovascular health going. You should be walking, you should be hiking, you should be, cycling, you should be swimming, you should be doing whatever you can to, keep that heart rate somewhat elevated and keep that heart, pumping. Keep that heart pumping the blood, keep that heart pumping the good nutrients, fresh nutrients around the body, and keep yourselves feeling vibrant and healthy. So my answer to your question is yes. 48-year-olds should absolutely be strength training. 75-year-olds, when it comes to like training in the elderly, you're seeing it more and more now. People, strength training and lifting weights into their 70s, 80s, and 90s. I saw the other day on social media of some sort, some 90-year-old guy deadlifting a good amount of weight. And it was a great example. It was
outside. I think I saw that video.
Yeah.
It was outdoors in the video.
Yeah.
There was a woman. It was like a German woman or something.
Yeah.
And she was doing like gymnastics too or something.
Yeah. It was great.
It's needed.
So that isn't to say everybody, can be doing that kind of stuff, but they, even if it's just body weight strength training doesn't necessarily mean lifting weights. Strength training can still be body weight stuff. It can still be like squatting down onto a chair and then standing up. It can be like stepping up onto a low box. It can be, doing variations of push-up type variations. Whatever it is, we are simply trying to challenge our muscles, challenge our bodies to adapt to new stresses and give them a reason. We have to give our bodies a reason to hold on to that muscle tissue. If we don't give them a reason to, it will think, oh, I don't need to hold on to this muscle. I'll just get rid of it. Our bodies are always looking to do that, so we have to fight. We have to fight that, that disintegration. We have to fight that loss with activity. That's our job. Fight aging and fight decline with activity and good nutrients. Again, we are living in a time when people are always looking for a quick fix and a drug or an injection or something that's going to make us look or feel younger. And a lot of the time, if people simply trained smarter and ate better and slept better, then a lot of these things would improve without any need for artificial things going into our bodies. And generally, like sometimes I'm 43 right now. Sometimes I'll go home and I'll see other men my age, and I just think to myself, what the fuck have you done to yourself? Like, you look like a fucking 60-year-old. Like, people just let themselves, when people say let themselves go, it's just a lack of self-care. It's a lack of attention to, like I said, nutrients, a lack of attention to exercise, a lack of attention to sleeping, a lack of attention to stress management, all of these things. And all these things like chip away at us over time, and it just like, it increases the aging process, and it just makes us generally feel like shit. So I'm always like, I don't know, I've always been involved in kind of health and fitness, so it has always kind of come somewhat naturally to me, but it's very difficult to see and to watch and to listen to people who I think I don't want to say like have been lied to, but I think a lot of the time, like media and news will often focus on drugs or reasons why you're sick, and it's like it's not your fault. It's because of this and it's because of that, and it takes away any kind of like personal responsibility about your physical situation. I think we really need to get back to people being very responsible for their own health. Like, no one told you to drink a full fat Coke, and no one told you to eat a bucket of ice cream. Like, it is a personal responsibility thing, and the excuse can't be, well, nobody told me I shouldn't eat it, or nobody told me that this was going to be bad for me. Like, it's on us to educate ourselves and know what's good for us and what isn't. And I really hope in the next few years, the media and the news and the government, to some extent, like, starts to emphasize health over drugs and natural remedies, natural exercise, and that kind of thing. And then I had another good question about internal mantra. Someone asked me internal mantra to keep going. What have you found inspires your clients to keep going when things kind of get hard?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. And for me, I say this a lot, and I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I think a lot of the time it's all about the story that you tell yourself about yourself. And the thing that I always say is, I am the person that, or I am not the person that. And for me, it's the thing whenever I feel like quitting, I ask myself the question, am I the person that quits, or am I the person that finishes? Am I the person that finishes a run 100 meters before the end, or am I the person that gets across the finishing line? And I think a lot of the time it's like you kind of say, this is the person that I want to be, and that's the story I'm going to tell myself. I'm going to tell myself the story that I am that person until I become that person. And that can take time. It can take a lot of work. It doesn't happen overnight. And I see people a lot in the gym that go through this evolution. They kind of start out with like, well, I'm the person that can only lift this, so I'll only lift that for the next kind of 6 months. And then after a while, it kind of sets in, or maybe it's a conversation, or maybe it's a natural progression of, well, maybe I'm not the person that does that anymore. Maybe I'm now the person that does this, and the weight goes up. Or maybe it's on the rower, and it's like, well, I'm a person that rows 500 meters in this time. And then over the course of 6 months, it then becomes, well, actually, I'm the person that rows that distance in this time. So, I think either via good coaching or via experience, people start to change how they view themselves, and they start to tell themselves a different story. So, have that internal voice that tells yourself the story, I am the person that does this, that does a positive thing, that finishes the workout, that eats better, that makes better decisions, that treats other people better. All of these things are connected. I think negative self-talk can be one of the most damaging things in life in general. Mm-hmm. But especially in the gym, that kind of like, I can't do this. I think I'm going to give up. I don't need to do this. Well, so-and-so is much fitter than me, so I can't expect to keep up with her. Or, well, I ate well yesterday, so I'm not going to eat that well today, kind of stuff. All these different like things that come into our brain. We have to kind of like break that habit, break that mold, and start thinking, okay, what kind of person do I want to be? What are my values? How do I want to see myself? How do I want to set an example? How do I want to be an inspiration to others? How do I want to be viewed? What do I want my legacy to be? How do I want my children to view me? How do I want my spouse to view me? All of these things. How do I want my parents to think of me? Like, all of these things come into my head, and I think, I don't see it as a weight. I see it as a source of energy. I see it as a source of a reason to do better. So I think if we can get ourselves in that mindset and give ourselves a reason to be better and to do better, then that can help with that internal mantra, that internal dialogue. Yeah.
Beautifully said, man. Yeah.
I think that kind of wraps up. So that was just a few questions that were kind of thrown out to me. I hope that was helpful for you guys. A few supplement things in there, a few general things in there, and yeah, like I said, if you're on the challenge, this stuff's super helpful. But this stuff is very, very helpful for life in general, for training in general, for immune systems in general, for our metabolic health in general. You know, this isn't stuff that's specifically for any kind of like short period of time. This is stuff that we should be thinking about all the time.
Amen.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening in. I'll see you guys next time. If you're on the challenge, keep going. You guys are doing great. If you guys want to come check us out, we are at our 1316 Glendale Blvd in Echo Park. We are Pharos Athletic Club. You can find us on Instagram at Pharos Echo Park. And yeah, we look forward to connecting with you guys real soon. Until then, take care, be safe, and see you next time.